All right, so this is the preface, or preface, preface or preface, preface. I'm not sure which one is correct. We'll just say preface to my story. Um, so the first chapter is where to begin when the truth is and isn't subjective. So there are three things that are really important to know about this story before you watch it, listen to it. Not only is it legally important, I think it's also helpful to kind of prepare for understanding why I'm telling this story. So a lot of the story is filled with people in my history who are fabricators. They lie, they tell half truths. Some cases, those are purposeful deceptions. And others, it's just, they've really had terrible experiences and have a lot of trauma, and that's part of their way of coping with it. So a lot of the source material, including myself, is very fragmented. And some of the folks that I'm telling in the story are no longer here, right? They're no longer with us, so there's not really a person that I can go ask and see, what were you thinking? So just know it's not 100% accurate. It's really, in some cases, my perception and understanding of what happened. So a lot of really terrible things happened in our family. But part of the reason why I think this story is really important to tell is because we know from psychology that being a reliable narrator of your own story is really important to reclaiming a lot of that experience. A lot of times when you're around a lot of people that make up things, that are liars, fabricators, right, it clouds your own reality. So being able to tell the story and tell it in your own words helps you come to terms with it. So essentially that's a huge factor as to why I'm telling this story and why I wrote it. Unfortunately, a lot of folks didn't have the opportunity to do that. So a lot of my relatives and, family, did not have lives of ease and did not have space to reflect on their experiences and do something like this. So I recognize that it's a privilege to be able to do this. And so I am, I guess, now head of the village as I'm one of the oldest people that's left alive, other than my older brother, who honestly didn't know a lot of this stuff because he wasn't privy to it. So I think it's really my job as head of my village, so to speak, or head of my village, to tell this story. As we know, history is told by the living, right? People who really see an importance in telling that story, remembering it. For me, I feel like there's a lot of things in my story that can help other people see things within their own experiences, and maybe help them in some way. And so that's a really important reason why I decided to tell this story. I think I kind of covered that a lot of my family, my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents have all been deceased at this point, in some cases for decades. So there's a lot of gaps in the history. So I've really just done my best to kind of piece together what I could just from memory and conversations with my mom and some other family members as well. So there's a lot of death in this story and a lot of grief. So I will probably be emotional at some points telling it, which is why I originally wrote it. So you wouldn't necessarily have to see this piece, but I think it's important. All right, that brings me to my last point for this video, and that is that, again, this is my view of how I remember, lived, and experienced my life. So it is very much told from my perspective. I can't necessarily speak to some of the things, like have clear dates or insight for what other people were thinking or doing. I can only tell you how I perceived it and how I experienced it. And I know there's one particular person in this story who is not deceased that is going to disagree with my characterization of them and my perspective of them, but that's their story to tell, not mine. I'm telling my story through my eyes, how I saw, what I experienced, what I felt. So this is a very crazy story. There's a lot of drama, twists and turns, dark, cruelties, just unbelievable coincidences that can't be coincidences, and overlaps and journeys, in the sense that I really truly believe that this is our family's story. It's not just my story, just because there's so many similarities in the things that happened with me, with some of my ancestors as well. And so that's why I really feel like this story could be helpful to other people, because I think it really shows the importance of knowing your family history, your journey, your story, and starting to reclaim some of that, and how it can help people just grow and learn and be better humans. So some of the stuff is just going to be so wild that it doesn't seem like it could be real, but I'm telling you, 100%, this is what I experienced. This is my real true life. And I don't necessarily care if you believe me or not. I lived it. So yeah, if you want to hear other stories, great. I hope this inspires you to tell your own, but this is the truth as I know it. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and start with the beginning of the story, which is really my parents' stories. And I will start with I believe this blog starts with let me just double check actually, since I'm on the blog. It's like, I don't remember who I started with. Starts with my mom, and then I'll go into my dad, and then I'll talk about my childhood a little bit. Then I'll talk about my relationship, and then kind of we'll close with like where things are today. So that's the plan, and hopefully we'll get through this in just a few hours, unless I get really derailed, but that's the plan for now. All right, I'll see you in the next video. And we'll have to